Hello everyone and welcome to week 1 of the Quake Pro League. We have made it, we have got here, we have got 20 players from around the world, the top contenders in Quake Champions, and we're going to be bringing you action of the first of the 10 weeks. I'm Zoot, I'm joined by Ketchup, and we got some things to get through.
We do. It's wonderful to be back. It feels like a long time since there was a sort of studio environment for Quake Weeklies, and that time's finally come back for 2019. We did just have QuakeCon, which really was the start of this journey. And as you said, right, we have 10 weeks to get through regular top-level Quake competition, and I think today is just going to be a taste of things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be so many great games to enjoy week on, week out, everything. And we've got the global ranking that was made up thanks to the QuakeCon, 20 players playing round robin, everything, everywhere, crazy amount of matches. We've got the leaderboards that have been assessed, and now we've got the matchups as well that we've got ready for us. So I think what's going to be good, Ketchup, is if we sort of build this up from the ground and explain to the viewers everything and exactly what is going on. We've already said 10 weeks. This is what's happening in Season 1, and at the end of the 10 weeks, we have got Luca Comic and Games, which is where the LAN finals is going to be happening, so players are working their way towards that direction. 16 of the players overall are going to be directly qualified to that main event, and then we've got some interesting challenger business happening with the players who find themselves only in the top 8 of their respective regions.
Yeah, and I mean the Challenger League kind of opens up an opportunity for those players to dethrone some of the Pro League players. There's always this constant storyline of, if you're hungry, you didn't quite make it into Pro League, by no means that mean you haven't got a chance, because there's always an opportunity to kind of sneak back in there at a LAN and, take what is rightfully yours in effect. And there's going to be some juice there already. Like, I can feel what it's going to do to some of the players, for better or worse, I think. Depends on which side of the spectrum you're sitting on. But today, I think it's going to be a nice demonstration of where our players are currently ranked. We should have some really even matches. Just name a couple. We have Spart1e versus Garpy first of all, Wenger versus Toxic, Base versus Avec, and then we're finishing off with, I believe, Zron versus Razy is going to be. First of all, I think QuakeCon did a wonderful job of showing us where the players are standing. And today is going to be, I think, simply just a continuation of that. Yeah. But the point system is where we start to see a little bit of progress up or down.
Yeah, and I think we should be able to look at all the players that we've got in the league so far, so we can walk through kind of all these. So you guys, a lot of you will be familiar with these players. We've got a lot of fantastic names. Anyone here kind of standing out for you? Not necessarily, based on their positioning in the rankings, but just something that something that you may like.
I mean, for me personally, we're not going to be seeing Cooler or Kilson, and they were the top 2 of QuakeCon. Wenger, for me, is a bit of a question mark. He's always going to be one to watch, but it feels like when he's online in his element, he's an absolute beast. And the moment you go offline where, the pressure might get to him, he is our youngest player, right? And the sort of event stress can really hinder your results, and unfortunately, Wenger didn't quite place as high as he probably would have wanted to at QuakeCon, but now we're back into the online regulars. Maybe this is where we start to see Wenger be a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, you just don't want to make a habit of that, right? You want to be able to be growing through online into LAN. So, and you know what? If he is able to make it towards the top end, getting himself deep already in the bracket before the main event even starts, playing in his home country, that's something really exciting to do. And I know last time he played Luca Comic and Games, it was on the first time that he really came to power on stage, and he enjoyed that so much. So I think that's something he's really looking forward to, and you obviously want to give yourself a good start getting towards that.
Home advantage, it means so much. We saw that at QuakeCon. I know the EU and CIS did do a lot better, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things than the NA players.
Don't sugarcoat it.
But you still saw the crowd. You'd see the energy of the crowd where they finally see an NA boy or Canada doing well. It's, hey, this is our part of the world, let's try and back it, and that energy does make a really big difference if you're a seasoned player. And it's just an element that you can't experience online, and I think that's why I like the format of doing the weeklies that leads into a LAN, where you very much get the best of both worlds. I've just been told that we do in fact have our schedule ready to go through, and there are a couple of things here. We're reading the chat during the intro here,
everybody's number 1.
There are some questions. What do these numbers mean?
Well, I want to start from the left to right. So obviously we know our schedule. schedule in terms of what time these matches are expected to be happening. I believe we're going to be kind of like flowing through them fairly steadily. In terms of the ranking, obviously, even though we have the global ranking, in terms of the league points that we have, everyone's at square one. So we're going to be establishing over the next week or so, you'll start to see where the players are falling in their rank, leading towards the LAN finals in Italy. But yeah, the numbers on the right, we've got maps, of course, and here we have got our expert analysis.
Yeah, I mean, the term we'll use is the anonymous experts prediction. Anonymous experts we generally don't know who they are, like just for reference, we have no idea. But it does mean that these people have made predictions on how they think that these maps will go down. The minus means you are of advantage, and it's the difference of frags that is being factored in. So I guess the TLDR is the bigger the value, the more one-sided it is projected to potentially be. But if it's 0-0, that's dead even.
Yeah, the minus number is the one that you're looking at as the player who has the advantage. The plus is the one who would have the deficit on the other player. So as you could see in the first map between Spart1e and Garpy, the anonymous experts have said Garpy would win by a frag.
Exactly, and then you look at something like, Razy's Ron, where it's -4 to +4. That's a pretty significant advantage that is projected there.
Rude.
That's them saying this player is going to get destroyed.
Yeah.
In their humble opinion.
But you know what? That's Razy clutch. So you got to remember that. There's some reasons right there, I reckon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think we're allowed to put our own opinions. Everything, and we've got, I'm sure, a lot to say in our first series as we see Spart1e having some CPM champions lined up.
Which I know that's definitely somewhat of a question mark for you, but I guess a final note is to mention that there are 3 maps. We are actually going to be playing all 3 maps. It is not a best of 3. If you win 2-0 and then we move on to the next map, which we will be playing through, there are actually bonus points awarded if you get a 3-0. So it's going to be 2 points for a map win, but if you 3-0 somebody, you're actually going to get an extra 2 points, which means that the maps factored in will be 6, and if you 3-0, it becomes 8.
Yeah,
so if you 3-0 someone, that's a big deal going into future weeks.
And if you get 3-0s, then, feels bad.
Just collect. Yeah, if you get 3-0, you don't get any points, so it can be quite savage on either way, but that's what I love it, the seesaw effect.
And you don't want to kind of just have... You don't want to think about now, I've just got 3-0, this is going to suck for the end of the whole league. You've got to work your way through it, play it one game at a time.
Indeed, but one game at a time. We have got our first match getting ready to go. Spart1e versus Garpy, and both these players, they're definitely some of our more interesting players across this side of the world. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yes, interesting is a word that can be used in this context.
But you mentioned it before. The interesting thing is the champion selection and how it's not what you expected. That's the most interesting bit
at the moment. Actually, it's really. We'll talk about Spart1e to begin with overall because it's his champions that I'm finding. Very unusual. He's known for more of this VQ3, so you'd expect that movement with the Ranger, with the Nyx, with the Visor, so on and so forth. Because he was only really picking up the CPM movement a couple of years ago. So the fact now that through the time that he's been spending in Quake Champions, he's maybe thinking, I want to main Anarchy and Solag. To me, that's like, okay, he's either got loads of confidence with it, and he could be tremendously powerful with it, but I prefer to remain skeptical until it's proven to me.
But I mean, if anyone sat and watched the Studio Quake broadcasts over the couple of years, you're always familiar with seeing Spart1e in there. He's always kind of placing in the later stages. He's always turning up at LAN. He's always turning up. When he starts and he decides he wants to really grind and get serious, Spart1e can get serious. But on the other side, Garpy, a personal favourite of mine, being a biased British boy, Garpy is just experience personified. He has so much experience in so many different arena FPS games, but obviously he's had his fair share of success in Quake Champions as well, and he's just extremely guttural the way he plays. He's not afraid to go with what he thinks is the right thing to do, and we actually said this earlier, even off stream, there's a real sort of controlled chaos to his style, like getting the crazy shots and the crazy aim in the most outrageous of high-speed situations.
Yeah, I think Garpy... His rockets, I think, are the weapon that really stand out the most for me, personally, but he's so good at the sort of fluid movement and then connecting those shots at the same time, which is why I'd be like, Garpy, you could very well be effective with that Anarchy and Solag type of play as well, but it is what it is. Are we going to be getting to some predictions a little bit, maybe see what we think about this?
I mean, I'm always one to try and root for Garpy. I know that he had somewhat of a break before Pro League. He was focusing on life a little bit, as some people do.
Okay. I was just wondering how biased we're going to be in that prediction.
I don't want to be biased, but my
Okay.
prediction is going to be Garpy.
But
right?
it's an unbiased prediction.
It's an
okay?
unbiased prediction. I promise this is an unbiased prediction. But Garpy always does. You can always expect Garpy to do quite well. And I will admit, he kind of did better at QuakeCon than I thought he might have done. Because, you know, when you take any amount of time away from playing, that obviously when everyone else is grinding and continuing to, you know, continue the wheel rolling, you can fall off. It's a very easy to fall off if you're not grinding the same way everyone else is. But Garpy, you know, goes back to the experience we talked about where he can just pick things up pretty quickly and, you know, be in pretty much the same level of shape. I do think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be 3-0, but I do predict 2-1 to Garpy.
Okay, you know what? I'm actually kind of leaning in a very similar direction. I do think, though, however, it could be 3-0 to Garpy. But I'm expecting some fairly close maps. Again, on the global ranking, these guys are incredibly close together, 9th and 10th respectively. I think it's going to be... I think Garpy would be gutted if he dropped, say, 1-2, for instance.
Well,
obviously, either of them would be, but I think Garpy should be taking the majority of the points.
I feel like today and this first week is interesting to all of us because it is a accurate representation of where the players were able to end up. You know, let's not forget to really wind the clocks temporarily back, where we kind of decided the rankings and everyone had to play everyone. This is where we're at currently, and we're moments away from that being shifted.
Yeah, I think we're
Wonderful.
about to start the game at the moment, guys. So Quake Pro League.
Week
Beginning
1.
right here, week 1, in our first games ever. We've got Garpy, we've got Spart1e. I believe we're going to be jumping into the server in just a few moments. Ruins it is to begin with. We've got Visor, we've got Sorlag, and I mean, Visor is very strong. It is a wide map. You've got some distance that you can get, but Sorlag, if Sorlag gets some good control, I'm expecting that Spart1e, as long as his movement's in form and he can make best use of it, then it's totally down to him. If he can hit his shots, there's no reason why Spart1e can't take it, but I'm anxious that movement might get in his way. But we're here, catch up.
You're going to have that issue, though, with Sorlag being one of the chunkier champions. She has got that pretty large hitbox, which means that if you're Garpy, and he's already got fantastic aim in the first place, she's a bit easier to hit than some of the other champions, especially when you've got that piercing sight, the wall hack. I mean, that's going to be immediately useful for obvious reasons. But on a map like this, which is spacious, it's Sorlag movement versus Visor utility at the end of the day.
And physics on what he's got that long ago is back up fairly shortly. It is going to be Spart1e landing the majority of the damage at the moment. There isn't a very easy way for him to jump into combat. Garpy was guarding the teleporter for a moment in case Spart1e decided to move through it, but he doesn't really have rockets, and Garpy will definitely have them. So it's really a bit sketchy to move through and commit to a fight.
It's always interesting how players will start each map, you know, where those resources are pretty low. You notice because of where Spart1e spawned at the very start, he's kind of had that automatic control over Heavy because of how he's playing those cards. He is now going to have to concede that LG. Garpy's going to have that dangerous weapon. But with Spart1e only just being able to collect a rocket, now, a minute in, we're starting to see the weapons that we're expecting to see.
I think Spart1e may have heard him nearby, actually. That's why he suddenly went very silent. But then Garpy also heard him, and I was like, I actually am massively outstacked. I don't particularly want to just run into a fight. He will spot him there through connector. There's going to be a drop down from Spart1e, but he's eating so much landing gun damage. Just about hits the last rocket. So there's first blood of the entire season. And Spart1e's 1-0 up.
Normally a situation you'd say maybe that's going to be a done deal for Garpy, keeping that constant trail of LG in check, but we said it moments before, simply being outstacked, where Spart1e could take all that beating and still come out on top, because of some fantastic rockets as well, not to undersell that. But now we're in a situation where Garpy, he needs to hit these rails. He has to keep Spart1e away, and the less Spart1e can bully him here,
I think Garpy
the better.
this. He's going to go in for it. He might take some of the damage over time, but he's trying to protect this Heavy. He won't be able to take it himself, and it is going to be the acid damage that takes him down, so we have a mutual frag. But Garpy is resetting the weapon status on the players. He's a little outstacked right off the spawn, but this gives him another chance to get back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no immediate spawning on the Mega or Heavy either, so it's not like, you know, one of them are going to spawn and then immediately get some kind of stack advantage. Mega has just spawned. Spart1e, he's going to be eyeing it up, I think, trying to establish some control. Doesn't want the rocket launcher just yet. He wants to keep that pressure on thick. He knows he can rotate round there. Sorlag, the movement means you can kind of just get in there a little bit quicker than Visor can. And now Garpy back to that awkward position. You know, he's outstacked. He's got a decent amount of ammunition, though, I think. But the question is, how does he play this? Ooh, that could have been a really good opening shot there.
Yeah, Spart1e hit that rail soon after he respawned, and it suddenly made it so that Garpy couldn't really commit to the fights that he wanted to go to. So then Mega goes free for Spart1e, Heavy goes free to Spart1e, Garpy's just trying to chip away a little bit and make it so Spart1e has a bit less confidence going towards at least one of the major items. Again, we've got a drop down from Spart1e, so much LG coming out, and Garpy is going to be able to equalize the scores. Why is Spart1e continuing to drop down like this? It's such impatient play. He's showing that he's willing to sacrifice everything to get the Heavy when the risk's just not worth it in the end.
Well, you look at what you lose too. You know, Garpy, he has a bunch of ammo. We'll see how much he values that Mega, as it should be a free take. Yep, has been. But now that piercing sight, he knows where Spart1e is, and he's going to just do the maths. He's going to have Mega here. So he's trying to get some of that opening damage. It's really unfortunate that he missed that rail, because that would have opened up a lot of opportunities to go in there and try and muscle in on that Heavy, but
LG was just fine now. I think if Garpy used that weapon and pushed in, of course you want to be careful going through the choke points, and I'm not sure that Spart1e even had the acid spit up just then. But we've got a nice bit of entry damage there from Garpy, and he is going to be able to follow up anyway, so it doesn't even matter what happened over at the Heavy, because Spart1e does brilliant damage over at the lower light armor.
I was really surprised that Spart1e actually doubled back and tried to dedicate to that fight, to be honest. Like, it was a difficult position to survive. He's going to get the piercing sight, which will open up some really excellent rockets as well. Garpy, still risky! Spart1e punishes, sticking around a little bit too long.
What a combo there from Spart1e at the end. It did hurt a lot staying in that fight, but he managed to bully his way onto the Heavy, deny that resources, and still secure the frag afterwards. 2 rails back to back. Garpy's got nothing. It's going to be 3 rails in a row, and that's going to put Spart1e back in the lead. A very, very back and forth first map we've got.
And it's perfect timing on the items too. Not only did Spart1e get that frag, but he's in a wonderful position to take both the Mega and Heavy, so Garpy for another time is temporarily on the back foot. He's going to try and hit those defensive rails to find his opening, but you can see how aggressive Spart1e's being now. He's really trying to sniff him out. He knows he's got the stack advantage. If he can spring a trap, he should be able to get another easy frag. And look at the timing too. He can get a frag now and maybe double back and get that Mega.
Well, either way, he's got positional control over the Mega Health, so it's so difficult for Garpy to get in. Even though he managed to get a free rail over there, you need at least a couple if you're going versus a Heavy champion.
And there's the classic payout, isn't it? It's stack versus ease of being able to be hit. You know, yeah, technically Storlag's easier to rail, but at the end of the day, if she's got that massive stack, it will matter in some of these fights.
Yeah.
It was the very first frag of the map, in fact. You know, that difference matters a great deal in some of these situations.
Garpy is down at the bottom. It looks like he was waiting to see if Spart1e was going to commit at all, but Heavy's been taken such a long time ago. Spart1e seems, you know what, no worries at all. We'll take a split on the items. I've got the lead. You need to take the risk. And I'm sure Spart1e's thinking about not dropping down on Railgun over and over again. Oh, what a trap. He waits for Garpy to make that move, and the acid spit's good. He hits a little bit of direct damage and manages to retain a good amount of health and armor. Garpy was just late coming back, so he just had only 50% of the information that he needed over at the Heavy.
And it's just perfect positioning too, where Spy kind of just perfectly stood still. So, you know, when Garpy's going down as fast as he can to try and beat him to the punch. But hang on a minute, hang on a minute. Oh, the miss! That's unfortunate, Zoot.
Garpy, he needed to switch. If he ran out of ammunition, he needed to switch over to the machine gun as soon as possible. Spart1e was so low, he was at the Mega Health early on, so a missed opportunity for the Brit. And Spart1e now with 100-100. I wonder if he's going to try and press this advantage a little bit towards the Mega Health.
There's a really nice delay in between Mega and Heavy too, so Spart1e can do what he's been doing all map. Take the Mega first, jump down and take the Heavy. He's going to be able to get there in time, especially now it's spawned. 8 seconds on the clock, more than enough time if he needs to, but yeah, trying to go for something a little bit different just in case.
I like the routes that he's using as well. He's not jumping down on Railgun like he did a couple of times ago.
Uh-oh.
He's been switching it up a little bit. It's been harder for Garpy to predict, or sunlight blocking him somewhat, but does manage to get away with overstack health and armor. And Garpy now has 3 minutes to bring it back.
It's a tall order when you look at the stack too. You know, Spart1e can be kind of, you know, semi-passive now if he wants to be. Unfortunately, that missed rail was going to get punished with some free damage. It's very fortunate for Garpy that that rail didn't quite hit its mark, and now we retreat back, stack up again, and it's I said it just now, right? This is a big deal for Garpy. There's a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to get it done, unfortunately.
He needs to, because at this stage it's like, okay, Spart1e's just infinitely stacked right now. Garpy needs to get himself over on the light armors, get himself to 100-100, and needs to find some free or unreturned damage of some sort. And be that while Spart1e's making his way to a major right. It could take him a good 45 seconds plus to do that. And he's showing his face very early when Spart1e's outstacking him 3-1. And now out-damaging him as well.
He doesn't even need to get a frag at this point. I mean, yeah, if he lands a really good shot here, he can get it anyway. There should be a free frag. Garpy, nice. No retreating to be had there. And just the general way Spart1e's been moving around, I don't even think that the wall hack from Visor has been all that useful for Garpy. Like, Spy has just been, I don't even care if you can see me or not. He's in so much control. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, Garpy, I think, feels very stuck. With a minute and a half to go, you're hoping to land some miracle shots at the moment. Spart1e's not making any mistakes with his weapon choices. I think his movement was a little sloppy at the beginning, but he's taking full advantage of the control now and having good weapons. He's not jumping onto Lightning Gun like he did beforehand, where you know, you have to actually suddenly get really clutch in a situation you absolutely shouldn't have had to be.
Just taking less risks, isn't he? And there's no need to now. Time is not on Garpy's side. At this point, I'm willing to just call it a map win. There's not a lot left that Garpy can do.
Silver lining for Garpy, he's just got himself the heavy armor. He's got overstuck armor. Issue is you got just over 60 seconds to get 5 frags on a heavy champion. So this is an incredibly tall order, but he's just got to close the gap. He's got to take every single risk possible. He takes the opening rail, he takes a follow-up rail, and Spart1e's just going to be able to finish the job on him over here. That's brilliantly played from him. 6 frag advantage with 45 seconds to go. And it's about this point now, which I'm happy to say, you know, a formal, like, it's over kind of speech.
I mean, I'd agree. I'd agree. Press F in chat. But I mean, in this situation, Garpy, he needs to focus on the next map, how he's going to handle things. There's really not much left to take away from this. Because, you know, at the end of the day, let's not forget that it's all 3 maps will be played in these series. And if you get 3 zeros, you're rewarded. He's going to get a frag now, but who cares? It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? I came into this, and I think you did as well, thinking that, you know what, Garpy maybe got this. Spart1e's the stronger looking player right now, and quite distinctly, both ourselves and the anonymous experts were off the mark of this. And I'm only saying that because we were even more off the mark.
You're only mentioning the anonymous experts just so we don't have to take 100% of the blame.
Yes,
you're doing it wrong.
You've figured out my strategy.
We're not afraid. We're not afraid to make the claims.
I'm slightly afraid.
I was wrong. And yeah, never mind. You guys didn't see that. It's fine. Nothing happened. It's all good.
Don't
but
worry.
That was map number 1.
It was.
And it was extremely dominant. More dominant than I was expecting, to be completely honest. But is things now going to shift? Is this going to be a situation where Spart1e gets the first 3-0 of the Pro League? I guess it remains to be seen. But a new map can change a man.
We'll wait till we get there first. I'm not confident about that yet. It felt like Garpy was really warming up still. There was a lot of instances where I was like, he's going to push in now and be like nice and aggressive, and he just backs away. You know, there's an instance where he's moving down on the heavy armor. Spart1e's there challenging for it. He's already hit 2 rails, and he's got 100 LG ammunition, and he's not pushing in to go for it, even though he's either equal to or significantly outstacking him. I'm thinking, you know, Garpy, those are the kind of opportunities you've got to take versus a Sorlag.
Well, look, this is one of the most common and classic, I think, comparisons from one map being totally different to another. So we start with Ruins of Sarnath. Up next, it is going to be Corrupted Keep. So it's going to be an entirely different turn of events, I imagine. Yes. You know, you can always just naturally expect the whole flow and how it gets played to be different. You know, there's no rail. And the rail was a real problem for Garpy. How many times did Garpy have, hey, maybe I can get back into the match, hit that rail, and then start pressuring my advantage, and then they trade it. You know, the second you're in Spart1e situation, and you've got a massive stack, and you both hit each other with a rail, I mean, you're still in the lead, because you've just done the same damage to each other. So it's going to change in Corrupted Keep. Garpy is pretty damn good on this map. True. So we'll see what happens.
And, yeah, exactly. It's his map pick. He loses Spart1e's map pick, which is fine. I was maybe harsh to Spart1e because I wasn't expecting him to be that good with Sorlag, but he's clearly well trained. Now he's going to be playing Anarchy versus Garpy. I'm still somewhat skeptical because now your margin of error with movement is even slimmer because you don't have the same generous stack that Sorlag has. You're much smaller, you're harder to hit, but it's still difficult. And if anything, maybe my point at the end, if Garpy does end up losing, is like, well, why didn't you pick the champions which I thought you were so good at?
I know we had that sort of temporary moment where we were talking, you know, during rehearsals and practice. We kind of looked at the champion pick and we're like, are we sure this isn't Garpy's champion?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, obviously, you know, that wasn't the case. But on this map, I think Anarchy is really, really good on this map in general. It's very easy for him to kind of run rings around you, but he's going up against Ison, which is going to be Garpy's pick. You know, Ison's always going to be a little bit of a blocker. And if you take a map like this, where you're kind of trying to just sort sort of zip through the hallways and zip through the door and stuff. The moment there's a turret in a really painful position, just kind of blocking you or causing extra damage in a fight, there is going to be that one extra element to factor in. It always kind of just goes back to how this format of Quake Pro League forces players to be good with multiple champions.
Yes.
You know, you're not going to be able to pick Anarchy every map or, you know, Sorlag every map. You have to be a lot more varied, and we'll see if that turns out good things on map 2.
Yeah, we should have map 2 starting in just a few moments. Definitely nervous about my predictions, but
I'm not. Ride the wave, baby.
What did we have again from Garpy? We got Ranger. So no, that's banned. He's got
Yeah,
eyes
it's banned out, yeah.
It is quite good against low stacks individuals. Depends where you're going to be putting your turrets, but I'm expecting the movement to really... it needs to be good. It has been quite good from Spart1e. I can expect it to certainly move on from there. But we are in the second map, guys. Keep has begun. Spart1e over at the lightning gun. A little bit trapped at the moment, but is going to find his way out just fine. And Garpy managed to get that heavy already. He's going for the lightning gun too, and has a stack advantage. But this heavy machine gun from Spart1e, he's getting great damage out from that. That is another very key weapon on this map that the players have to go for. And already a head-to-head gunfight. Oh, that was close. But the Mega Head just been picked up then.
Well, the danger is now Spart1e with that heavy. He's going to be able to kind of double back in here. And he might be able to get something. You know, the stack difference is pretty extreme here. Garpy, if he gets shredded the way he just did again. Oh, that rocket almost hit direct. That would have been good things for Garpy, but it's a common thing, right? Garpy is just not quite getting those opening shots that he needs to try and make something happen. I feel like he's, even though this map has just begun, he's consistently feeling like Spart1e's the one that's just dictating the pace of everything.
If Spart1e had the rockets, he would already have a frag. He just hasn't been able to get there yet. And that's a lot of damage. You're already losing a decent amount of your overstack. And Spart1e has been neglecting the rockets a decent amount. That rocket's going to land, and that already sends the message to Garpy that he can be a bit more confident now. Even with that heavy armor taken, I mean, Garpy can fight if he can get the first rocket off.
Yeah, Spart1e has put on a pretty fat delay, actually, in between the Mega and the Heavy. I wonder if that actually means that Spart1e can sort of try and command this LG room just a little bit extra, give himself more time to maybe try and force Garpy away from it. And now, because Spart1e has timing, maybe Garpy, he hasn't got timing at all. That delay has perfectly worked out. Garpy got completely played there, like a fiddle.
It looked like he was more than happy to oblige, giving away the Mega health, because it's okay, I'm going to get heavy. I'm getting heavy, right, guys? Please, can I have it now?
Guys,
I mean, that was
tumbleweed.
Yeah, exactly. And no, that just didn't work out at all. Didn't end up being a good trade, and it was kind of faltering as soon as he had no damage on Spart1e when he took the Mega health.
He's going to pop the injection. Wants to give himself as much overstack as physically possible, especially with no health around. I know that room's normally quite good for HP bubbles, but if they're gone, that's what Anarchy's ability's for. He's really stacked now. Still hasn't got a rocket. Just hasn't really seen the need for it just yet. He's doing so much damage without it, and Garpy couldn't even steal away the Heavy. This is really bad news for Garpy, and not a good start at all.
The turret is on the brink of doing more damage to Spart1e than Garpy is. Okay, no, it's changing now. Alright. Oh, the LG is really good, actually. Spart1e's got to get the hell out of there. He's going to have his injection in a second. Oh my, he uses it just in time, but only 8 HP remaining. He'll find 225s over at the Boneyard. But this is already like still a stuck position. It's a great attack from Garpy. He knows exactly where he wants to be in order to get that increased health. But it has meant that he's had to give away that heavy armor. So it's still a fairly big price to pay for just getting on the board at all.
Spart1e didn't get played a terribly poor hand on that spawn, you know, being so close, and normally you're used to Anarchy using his air mobility to escape those guaranteed rocket situations, but it was such an awkward shot. Garpy just needed to finish that one. He's straight back in the fight now. 2 frags apiece. This is what he needed to.
Yeah, first frag was definitely hard fought. The second one, Spart1e just assisting him, walking into a direct rocket. And it's kind of the kryptonite of these light champions, particularly the very mobile ones, where they are depending on their movement, because it totally shuts that down. Bad rockets again. LG looking pretty good. Spart1e's very low. That rocket's going to land. Garpy takes the lead. What an angle he had on that rocket, actually.
Oh, he didn't perfectly placed.
He didn't need to hit anywhere near that much damage, but it was a phenomenal shot.
And now we have the spawn of the Heavy. Can he keep him away from it? 1 defensive rocket, 2 defensive rockets actually in Spart1e. Smelling blood just a little bit. Doesn't want to push too hard. He knows the Mega's about to spawn. If Spart1e can establish a bit more control, that's going to be the win, but Garpy. No more rockets. That's actually quite unfortunate. Having to stick with just this range instead.
He'll find some now, but he's so outstacked. I almost feel like Spart1e should just push in for a kill very soon. He's definitely on his way to getting the heavy, but suddenly a good rocket and a half from Garpy could change this up a bit. Doesn't challenge further on the heavy, but the free damage that Garpy's picking up at the moment is unbelievable.
I love the way Garpy is positioning himself. He's constantly got that high ground, which is so awkward to hit those rockets. You know, if you miss, it's just, well, you said it yourself, right? Free damage. No returns to be had at all, but there's only one frag difference so far.
Where was Spart1e looking? It's like he didn't realize he was up above. He's like, he's going to jump down in a second and I'll be able to get a perfect rocket.
He just saw something move. Turret or not, doesn't matter. Let's shoot it.
No rockets again for Garpy. Little horrible click. Spart1e's running circles. Eventually runs away. This is still a very difficult lead for Garpy to protect, so he has to be active on the map. He can't just passively try and hold on to it for 5 minutes. There's no way in a million years that would work. He gets caught off for a moment, but his LG is good enough, so Garpy, well, he doubles up the scores. But can he hold on to it in this kind of fickle moment? Mega has a light. There's a good chance he can, actually.
He's not super starved on resources either. You know, he had that light armor to retreat to. Here comes the turret, Spart1e. There's going to be 2 versus 1!
Wow.
But he gets the LGs looking for, and we're going to see what Spart1e can pick up from that. Not too much of a delay in between the 2 major pickups, so we might see somewhat of a trade-off here.
I think Spart1e took 2 25s and the light armor after that fight. I'm pretty sure he was left with like sub 20 HP.
Not anymore.
Yeah, definitely not anymore. But it showed how close the fight was. I didn't think Garpy should have challenged to begin with, because it was always going to be close. LG, Spart1e drops onto him. There's starting to be a pattern emerging at the moment, Ketchup. His Spart1e dropping onto Garpy LG. It almost doesn't matter the room anymore.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily the worst decision in the world. Like, it obviously tactically swapped to the super shotgun. He knew, hey, if I can jump down and get, you know, the spread I'm looking for, he survived with 2 HP. Like, that was so nearly a wise decision. Yeah. I think it's always just Spart1e not being afraid to take the risk. You know, there are some of these situations where some players will never take a risk like that, and Spart1e's never been known to shy away from what could be a big play into a free kill.
I really think he could have held on to the disadvantage he had instead of making it wider. I don't know. Maybe I'm too critical, Ketchup. But I was always taught don't jump on LG. It's like one of the sort of unwritten laws of Quake, is that you just don't do it.
We almost saw some entry damage there from Spart1e, you know, where Garpy just so happened to get caught. That was some wonderful shredding. And now, only 1 frag difference here. Spart1e definitely can't count him out just yet. We have plenty of time left too. Oh, no, that's
brilliant challenge. Really good challenge from Garpy. I was going to say leading up to that he really has to go for this heavy armor to just keep himself in the game quite easily. If he gives it up, it's a massive issue. But he does it. And he's almost securing himself a follow-up, actually. He's doing a great job at the moment.
I know that wasn't even huge damage, but I loved that rocket placement from Garpy. It's what separates him from so many players, that sixth sense of where to shoot. There's a reason we say that he's got some of the best rockets in the business. He gets another one. Doesn't really cause too much trouble.
Spy. It's going to be bigger.
I really thought it was going to be more as well. But
Spart1e's taking a couple of risks at the moment, but he's landing some okay damage. I think he was using Tribal for a moment, and he just sneaks on by the side and brings it 5 to 6. He's got good timing on the heavy. That's another thing we haven't really brought up at all with Spart1e, is actually this guy is a timing god. He is really good with item control. He's walking, he's dropping into it. He didn't drop into the LG, but he dropped into rockets, and it's Garpy and his rockets. You can't do that either, okay?
I mean, I can't justify that one. I'm not going to try and justify that one.
Don't try to justify LG drop-ins as well.
But if you're a player that sometimes plays with their heart on their sleeve, you know, maybe,
True.
There are just certain moments where you're like, I feel like this is going to work. You know, and he does go for those bold plays, and up until right now, it's been working out. But I mean, that's the double-edged sword, right? If you're willing to win on a crazy read, you're willing to lose on it as well,
yeah.
And you can't complain about it.
I mean, there are instances where it could work where you're totally overstacked and your opponent is sub 40 HP or whatever.
I mean, Ruins,
okay,
right?
Circumstantially, you know, you can certainly make it work, but unless you have that critical information, just don't.
But I mean, that exact kind of situation was working so well on Ruins because it was the Sorlag stack combined with the movement. You know, it was less of a risk because it had a less chance of going wrong if you're just nice and healthy. But Garpy playing that immediate defensive game. You can see he's rarely pressing the advantage. And even then, he's just trying to get some defensive rockets. He doesn't want to take a fight. He wants to survive the 60 seconds. Unfortunately, not quite hitting the mark. Spart1e's in big trouble. Goes on to the Mega, but it's not enough. Garpy's going to get another frag. And at this point, he won't even care that the Mega's been taken. It just doesn't matter. 30 seconds left. 3 frags left to go. Spart1e needs to make magic happen, and needs to make it happen right now.
Yeah, he's just got to jump in his face. There's nothing else he can do. That's his only chance to get back into the game. The thing is, he doesn't really have the weaponry for it. If he had rockets, then I'm sure he'd just rocket jump towards it. Finds the turret, but he's already found that 15 seconds have been burned away, and there's another turret. He might actually even get the kill over here. He goes for a rocket jump too, gets it, returned by the turret. Time is about to be out. Garpy calls the GG, so does Spart1e. We're still 1 for 1, and it's 9-6.
It was a similar style of play, but without the... Honestly, I think without the crazy rail damage to give Spart1e that information of, right, go in now, you know. The lack of that rail damage, I think, made a big deal, and the same plays didn't quite work out for Spart1e this time.
Look at the item control as well there. 2 heavies versus 16, 12 versus 7. Spart1e had a lot more item control, but he's outdamaged by over 1,000. The LG that Garpy had in that game versus Anarchy was astonishingly good. Really,
and it's,
really incredible.
It's you know, we don't want to undersell it either. Hitting constant good Rails or LG versus light champions is not as easy as it looks.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing about Quake, right, is that, you know, these players, they make some of this stuff look easy, and it's not.
Yeah.
You know, anyone can learn it. You know, of course, it's skills that can be learned, but these guys play at such a crazy level that these tiny champions are just...
It look like I can do it. I still can't, however many years later it's been.
But, I mean, what ultimately, we have to talk about what went wrong for Spart1e there.
Yes.
And I don't even think it was much about
jumping
what
into
went...
LG and rockets.
But no, ultimately, that's what it came down to, though. So, you know, Garpy played really, really well, and he was nice and composed, but Spart1e was just making a lot of just bad errors in his judgment.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of his decisions where he's like, this is going to work. It just didn't. It's too many opportunities where he jumps in, takes unnecessary damage, and just hands himself on a silver plate. And then when Garpy had that snowball effect, he just ran away with it after that.
You know, sometimes you want the sort of deep insight into certain situations, but to cut it clear, like, Spart1e also just didn't hit enough. He should have been hitting more lightning gun, and he should definitely have been on par with the accuracies and such that Garpy was showing against him. He was doing brilliant, but as you mentioned, with those mistakes in positioning, you're dropping down. I'm making fun of it, but if you make those mistakes when you're building up your big opportunities for yourself, suddenly it pushes your comeback back by 1-2 minutes at a time. Can you find that situation again? Can you force a mistake from your opponent? There's a lot of things that have to come into play there, and Garpy played his advantages just far better than Spart1e.
Yeah, so I think we're going to get somewhat of a mix of the two maps now. Our final map pick should be Molten Falls. It's going to be Athena being played by Spart1e, Nyx with Garpy, so it's going to be a battle of two little lights.
Yeah.
But on Molten Falls, I mean, we've seen Athena on this map. Like, it's one of her popular maps because she can just fly. You know, it's not only that, but it's the elevation, isn't it? It's the freedom of movement that a lot of champions don't normally give you. And again, normally we see Garpy. I feel like there's been a complete swap of champions throughout this series, where normally Garpy is the one that plays the champions that Spart1e's going in for on these maps.
Yeah, I've been finding it super odd, to be honest. But you know what? Spart1e's been doing some justice, I think, to those champions. I would have been amazed, actually, if he won that game with Anarchy, and I would have felt like, okay, all analysis for today from me is going to be gibberish. But that made sense to me. I don't expect Spart1e to do the crazy Athena tricks that we see in some impressive frag videos and stuff, where you're kind of jumping around the outer borders areas and some crazy, I don't know, Molten Falls parkour or whatever you want to call it. I'm expecting it still to be kind of stable. You're in a competitive environment. You don't want to take crazy risks. You just want to be as effective as you can. And the one thing that Garpy has, though, with the Nyx is you've got that get out of jail free card a little bit. It's the timing of it. If you get it wrong, it can be very disadvantageous, especially if you use it just before you're going to die anyway. If you get caught off the spawn with no ability, a champion like Athena is going to be able to run over you until you get that Ghost Walk back, because you've got no stack, you've got no starting armor or anything like that, and you've got someone zipping around at 100 miles an hour, it's going to hurt. For Garpy, it's just as important for Garpy as it is for Spart1e to not make these crazy movement risks, but Garpy just to use that ability at the right moment.
And this is, you know, how far the game is now starting to develop, where it very much, you know, these champions are starting to play a big part, not in the success of the players, but and they're being picked for a good reason. And, you know, Athena on this map, you're going to be seeing exactly why Spart1e's gone for this pick in the first place. If Spart1e didn't get it, then perhaps Garpy even would have been the one to pick it. So either way, 1-1 now, Zoot, so either we're going to get our prediction right or we're going to be slightly off the mark.
Well, everyone gets points today. Oh, right there. Finds him a little bit late. It's going to use the Ghost Walk. So he uses it, avoids a big rocket there. Doesn't avoid the rail. He's still going to be railable at the moment. That rocket is perfectly positioned. Goes for the rockets afterwards. And that Mega is...
Oh, no!
Spart1e is like, you know what? I'm going off the edge. I know I'm dying right now anyway. Can I do this to myself?
I have to go now.
Heavy's there. There's some good zoning out rockets actually from Spart1e, but he's starting to take a decent amount of damage. Well, this weapon choices and movement choices from Spart1e have been almost questionable.
Yeah,
I
feel like it's almost just like in the heat of the moment, he's kind of just farming some of them. You know,
Yeah.
I just don't even think he means to hit some of these. Oh, oh no! Oh, see ya later, mate. What a start, though, for Garpy, the LG. You never get tired of seeing that happen, do you?
So, as I think that you've got 3 hooks, and, you know, like every 15 seconds you get one back. It looks like Spart1e had 0 hooks left there. You always kind of want to aim to keep one in the bank, but if you're going hastily after some control... Oh, these rails have been phenomenal from Garpy. Spart1e's just opening himself up to these angles. Strangely.
Yeah, I mean, that first rail was something that I don't even think Spart1e was prepared, because it was such a reactionary little flick. I don't think a lot of us really expected him to hit that one. And then, the second he went in, and he misses the shot again. It's just not working out for poor old Spart1e. That initial rail, like, he got caught double jumping.
Yeah.
You know, like, if he had the angle, he shouldn't have jumped at all, because there's nothing he can do to change his arc.
Spart1e's moving back up again. He hooked up to the top. Garpy's got an okay stack, and given that he's done damage to Spart1e already, he seemed to have been caught off that Spart1e actually went for the heavy armor. And Rocket's going to click one more time, but he's going to spot him again. Garpy's lightning gun has been absolutely awesome, and he's in very good stead to get this mega health. Spart1e is showing his face so much, and he's just taking immense amounts of damage.
And he's just getting completely bullied off the spawn. I feel like he's doing the predictable thing every time. Like, Garpy has a bit of a a rough sense for where Spart1e's probably going to spawn.
What?
That was so quick. Was that deliberate?
Well, you know, things can happen with your movement, especially with the hooks, and especially if you don't have like a backup hook.
But he took damage first, so I wonder if he tried to rocket jump and... I mean, I'm not even going to try and assume what happened there.
Okay, so one way you can look at it is, was it rage-induced? But I don't really... Like, Spart1e can be emotional games, but I wouldn't expect this to be something that, you know, would push him to do that.
I mean, maps matter. You know, never give up. There's 7...
Frags can eventually matter.
For sure. I mean, 7 minutes on the clock, and there's plenty of time left for Spart1e to make something happen.
Definitely.
He has had a horrific start, unfortunately, but... Ooh, tries to double back. I quite like that little maneuver, actually, and he gets the rail, too.
That's
okay.
a good rail.
Let's make something happen off this! What a shot, Spart1e!
You know what? It makes up for it a bit. It makes up for the fact that... I don't know what the hell he did to himself, but whatever happened, it makes up for it. Unless we see a replay and decide it doesn't, you know. For now, I'll leave it fine. Oh, the mid-air, though, from Garpy! Spart1e was just starting to build some momentum there, and nope, shredded. Totally shredded.
He's immediately gone in for some self-damage and just gets destroyed by Garpy around the corner. And things are just going from bad to worse. You just look at the momentum. Gets caught mid-jump as well, so there's just nothing Spart1e can do to stop the trail of incoming destruction.
I mean, there's so many things at the moment I'm not understanding. Like, Nyx isn't a champion that should be able to string these frags this quickly together.
I mean, she'll take damage and she'll have to back out, right? Like, she's not able to just keep this momentum going. And Spart1e being crazy aggressive again, and he's...
Heavy? Oh, he did. Sorry.
He's using so many of his hooks and predictably going in with the jump pad. That should have, by all accounts, and he goes back again. Spart1e just underestimating these fights, and
he's face tanking so much when he just can't afford to. You can take a rail and a slap, and that's it. You're done. He takes the light armor. Mega health just got taken from Garpy. I no longer, since probably a minute and a half, know why on earth Spart1e is pushing into some of these situations, especially when Garpy has already shown that he is more than capable of killing him off the spawn. Looking for a rail. He has got the Ghost Walk, so there's a
watch out!
And the rail immediately after. I mean, you can't actually shoot out of Ghost Walk for half a second, and Spart1e's looking the wrong way anyway, so what does it matter there? Now by the health bubbles, this is just plain sail destruction.
I feel like Spart1e's movement in these situations where he's kind of at risk of being railed, I think he's being way too predictable by just going straight forward. You know, if you're going for those strafe jumps, yeah, you're going fast, but you're stuck in an arc, right? And oh my god.
Let's take a moment to enjoy it though, at least. 15-0 at the moment. It's not the type of destruction that we expect to witness in this map, especially when these guys are fairly close up ranks.
That rail.
The rail.
Oh no! Garpy!
Just what I want.
Mean man.
Thank you for delivering there, Garpy.
I appreciate it, but you're a oh god, on the rail! How is Garpy?
Oh, let's
my
go.
god! What? Oh, why didn't he gauntlet? That was a goal.
Don't be upset at him now.
No, I'm angry. I'm angry because he gave me something more disgusting than I was prepared to see. What are we watching, Zoo? Absolute body bag. Put him in. Spart1e's just continuing to push.
I don't think, normally at this stage I'll be like,
No.
okay, so this is how the player gets back into the game. And, this is the kind of opportunities that can be. There's no opportunities anymore. I'm sorry, it's done.
If he does,
And right now we just get to experience the roller coaster crash. What do you call it? The car crash? Car crash.
Yeah, train wreck.
Yeah, I'm sure there's.
I'm really sorry, Spart1e, if you watch this back. I do not mean to.
I'm not sorry at all.
It's a good game, though.
You did it to yourself. I mean, he's running at his pace. What are you expecting? Garpy's like, oh, right, I'm getting some aim practice in right now. This is fun.
Oh, again.
Garpy loves playing against bots.
And he knows, but he knows that he's weak. He knows that he's so weak. Oh, he's going around the corner. And he knows he's going around the corner. Hits the Nyx angle. That was a cute one.
Where is he? Oh, he actually could have gone down there. You don't want to give Spart1e a point on the board. After all this, it would be like a moral defeat to have to give up the frag.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, Garpy's new objective is win by the highest amount.
Yes.
Set a record today. Make sure no one else in all 10 weeks can beat this difference.
We saw, the global ranking.
How did he know?
That was so nice.
That was the
timing.
perfect tri-bolt shot. Garpy stepping it up, and Spart1e, I feel like he's definitely, with how he's moving, it just feels like he's given up, honestly. Like he's being, I mean, at least for that few minute period, he was just being so predictable. It's like, who cares?
Oh, I got a theory. The suicide that Spart1e had earlier was not deliberate, but because it was an accident, that's what made him tell.
Yeah.
Do you know is that fair?
I mean, I think it's a fair assumption, because from that point, I mean,
that's such a good roll.
So many of these angles, and they just swapped the machine gun. No reason to overcomplicate things. But the moment that happened, it has just been a downhill slope.
Yeah. Because he was making some aggressive plays then, but afterwards his aggressive plays literally had no structural foundation to why.
But I feel like at this point the deficit is so huge that Spart1e's just like he doesn't even care. Because if he's going to try and get, if I mean, can you get 24 frags in 2 minutes?
Mathematically, yes.
If Garpy's keyboard breaks, if his mouse and keyboard just
back to zero you go.
Oh, get back down there.
Get off the scoreboard.
Who do you think you are? There's actually quite a ton of momentum. I remember one of the DreamHack qualifiers where Garpy had the most tragic suicide I think I've ever seen. It was against Spart1e. That was just justice right there. That was definitely, that was just Garpy.
True.
How do you like it?
You never forget that one.
Years later. He's just, a rail.
Hey.
Insta-Gib's a good mode.
It is, and we're playing it right now here in the Quake Pro League.
Wonderful spawn. More rocket damage. Should be easy to finish it off, and Spart1e's just...
I think he's trying to get a high score as well. How many times can I get fragged? We never think about it that way, but maybe he's also trying to break some records. And, early on in the Quake Pro League, I don't think we're going to get a frag deficit like this for a while, so Spart1e could be making a name for himself.
I really didn't see 30 in my mind at all
30?
today.
Are you expecting 30-0?
I mean,
when do you see it?
I think at least 30, for sure.
I'd say, if it goes the way it has been, 31.
Chat, you're give us predictions right now. After that. All right.
Okay, it's done. It's 28-29.
Oh. Is it evil of me to have wanted it to be 0 to another
No,
count?
not at all. Spart1e's been very aggressive, and too soon did he give up on
nice
something that was not... he could get into it.
Well, Garpy has 40 seconds to make Spart1e accidentally suicide again.
I believe, maybe.
Uh-oh. I mean, there's 30 seconds. Garpy might have another opportunity to do it, but... I mean, there's not really much to analyze from this anymore. He even gets the damage on the hook, and it doesn't matter at all.
He does hit 30 though. Hitting 30 is that's pretty badass.
I mean, it is insane. It is an insane level of dominance to reach this point. And he gets a rail 100. Oh God! Game over right there. That's GG's. I mean, there's not much else you can say. Spart1e. Garpy is going to take this one. It is indeed going to be a 2-1. We were right at the last minute, but oh my word.
I couldn't really tell until the last second there, but I think we just about got there with our prediction.
77%.
77% REL, 46 LG. Well, mostly because Spart1e was just feeding him LG. Well, I mean, I want to talk about it seriously for a second, because it was like 8-1 or something like that, and there was every chance that Spart1e could get back into it. You've got great movement. If you can force the Ghost Walk from Garpy and keep him out of control and get yourself in control, then it's very easy for suddenly to get 3-4 frags right away. But after like minute 3, he decided, no, either Athena was totally the wrong choice, or, I don't know, something else went horribly wrong. And this is Spart1e demonstrating his capabilities of going outside the map.
But I honestly feel like with just how the man, not even before the suicide happened, I don't even know if we managed to get that on camera, because that took everyone by surprise.
We weren't watching it at the time,
but,
so I have no idea.
But I mean, the thing is, right, is that in these weird situations, like those initial frags that took place, even they were strange, and the kind of frags that can definitely tilt a player. I think it's safe to assume there was some full tilt for quite a few minutes in that map, because, I mean, Spart1e he just held forward and never looked back, and he just gave himself to Garpy, and less than 5 minutes in, this map was already over.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I mean, it's a shame to have gone from such a good start to the series and ended like that. I was thinking just after the first couple of okay, so we 2 points.
This was the shot of the map.
That's like a good
so
130 degrees there on that turn. That's pretty sharp.
But I mean, like that's the thing about Garpy, isn't it? Is that you can always kind of expect him eventually at some point to just show up. Like that first map was really dominant.
I don't think he needed to show up in the last map though.
But my point is just when he was feeling himself, when he was super comfortable, he was still hitting some ridiculous shots.
He was still delivering. Like, okay, I won't take anything away from Garpy, because you still got to land it in order to get the 31-1 or whatever it was in the end. But I think it was definitely assisted.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily that Garpy won it, it's that Spart1e definitely lost it in map number 3. However, what we can take away from it, though, is the fact that maps are all played for a reason, because points have to be awarded, and the points really feed into the grand scheme of things. So it being 2-1, that should be 4 points for Garpy and 2 for Spart1e. So, he hasn't gone completely empty-handed, and even though that map was super, super dominant, he hasn't lost a massive amount. In spite of that.
True. And I think we'll start to see what those leaderboards and points look like for all the players after a whole bunch of games, and then it's going to kind of make sense. Okay, really now, these performances the first couple of weeks, where's it going to put everybody? But guys, we have got some more games coming right up. What we're going to do is, I think we're going to a break.
At some point.
Yeah, we're going to a break at some point. Do we have a quick schedule that we can look at? I think production's talking to me.
Well, I know in a minute we probably will. But I know that up next it should be Wenger versus Toxic. That's actually personally the match that I've been the most excited to watch, because it's just two very, very different styles, right? Toxic has always been, my personal favorite player in general, because, the man gets frags harder than pretty much anyone else out there at the moment. But Wenger he's got the story, hasn't he? He's just this new blood that is consistently trying to prove that he is up there with the rest of the top dogs. And as you can see, lo and behold, yes, indeed, it is actually going to be Wenger and Toxic up next. But I think the whole day is going to be ridiculous. But this is the match that I've personally been the most excited to watch.
Yeah, and this is actually probably where I have the biggest disagreements with our anonymous experts as well. Because Wenger is so good at Awoken. Like, really good. And the anonymous experts are putting him behind in the first map. I think Wenger is incredibly good at Sorlag. I think he's incredibly good at Woken. And if he doesn't win Woken, I'll eat my own shoes, because it's, phrase. Terminal. I'm not actually going to do it.
Can someone clip that, and I'll refer to it later for obvious reasons.
But I will be immensely surprised if that happens. But we'll find out in a moment, because this time I'm going to call it correctly, guys. We're heading over to a quick break. We'll be back soon with more from the Quake Pro League.